Hi everybody, it's Lynda Keane here again. Today I'm very excited to be having a chat with Julia Meno, who's from the US of A. Julia is a very, very experienced therapist, so I hope you're going to enjoy our little chat here today. So hi Julia.
Hello. Nice to be here with you today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's lovely, lovely to talk with you. So Julia, how long have you been involved in the aquatic industry?
Oh, it's been a lifelong water affair with me. I started out as a competitive diver, springboard diver, 1 meter, 3 meter, and competed at the national level. And when I was 16, I have spondylolisthesis, and I had some issues with my back and required some surgery. And I found when I got back in the water that I expected to just be able to move around as I did pre-surgery. And I quickly found out, oh my goodness, the datum points and parts of rotation and even the muscle density, everything was different, and I could barely swim. I just kind of rolled over on my back and got to the side of the pool, and it's like, wow, very different. So when I got to university, I already had an interest in athletic interest in water, but then I started in adaptive physical education and therapeutic recreation, and was able to bring children and adults into the water and help them find some form of control and enjoyment in the water. And so I started out through experience, and then my choices of university classes dictated the rest. And then I started voraciously studying all the techniques that were available to study back in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you are very, very lucky in America because the universities out there do offer aquatic training. And
they used to not. Yeah, they only started doing that at some universities in the late 90s. It wasn't something that was mainstream by any means. It still isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think, such an opportunity missed, which is really, really sad, really sad. So sort of, have you always worked in water then, ever since you left university? Is it, or did you have another life beforehand?
I did have a little bit of another life, but it was also based in the water. I did a couple of things. As a therapeutic recreation specialist, I worked as a therapeutic recreation director for assisted living and nursing homes in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It was just one nursing home. But it was a really good experience. We went up to about 78 residents at the time, and it was a lot of work. And after that job, I went into doing river guiding, whitewater rafting, and I did some programs. One was SPLORE, which is Special Populations, Leisure, Outdoor Recreation, and Education. So we were doing river adventure trips, week-long trips. Some were day trips, others were week-long, with people with challenges from group homes and state training schools. And so that was, you had to be very creative, to involve people, and you had to learn how to adapt a lot of equipment, and safety being priority. So that was my other life.
Wow. What opportunities. I mean, it's well, something I don't think would have been possible over here at all.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the reaction on some of the people with different challenges, like schizophrenia, people who are schizophrenic with also other developmental disabilities, and they'd get on the river, and just people who wouldn't talk or focus or stop some nervous tics, things like that, when they were out in nature and just on the boat, floating and adjusting their body position and just feeling the flow of the river. Really, I noticed a profound psychological response. And that gave me a big respect for that. And so early on, I was very fascinated by Watsu because of that. And yeah, and then later on, I worked a lot with children. After I left the hospital, I started therapeutic aquatics. It was first therapeutic recreation services. And then I found that I was in the water so much that it turned into Therapeutic Aquatics, Inc. And I worked with a lot of school children through adaptive physical education programs. And there's some grant programs that allows children who are going to physically, who might fall back over the summer if they weren't able to continue with their aquatic or physical education program. And that was called LIFE, which is Leisure is for Everyone. And it was really nice. It afforded children to continue with their development through the summer months.
Excellent. So,
yeah.
So do you like working sort of with neurological conditions most, or what?
Yes. Yeah.
There's a surprise. So what do you find, what sort of things happen neurologically when you have sort of a client with you that's got some kind of...
Well, everybody's different. So one thing you might use for one client might not work with another client that has a similar or the same diagnoses, because neurological things present in different ways, and it makes for it's kind of like it's kind of like problem solving, but you have to think outside the box and use a lot of different tools. You take the information in from a whole on the person, as how they're managing to get around and some of their thought processes, or if visually, you have to think of everything, their visual impairment, if there is one, balance, and how is it being affected? Is it coming from spasticity, or is it coming from something within the central nervous system as opposed to peripheral? And you get very creative. That's that's what I like about it. Nothing's canned.
Yeah. So, amazing. So what would you say, I mean, I know that you work very much like I do, that you have a complete toolbox and you like to use all of the tools, get them all out, and sort of, the right tool fitting the right need and everything else. But what would you say is your sort of favorite tool? Do you have one?
Oh, well,
tricky question, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, besides the information that you gather, your brain, being able to come up with a treatment plan and also adapt it on the fly. I think that's very important, to be able to quickly adapt if something's not working. How to back it off or make it so it's success. Always want the treatments to be success orientated and client centered if possible. So the equipment sometimes is your brain and how you position the person in the water and directions that you give them.
Yeah.
And then, but as far as if you're asking me a piece of equipment besides my hands and my brain would be, let's see, maybe a noodle. I don't, there's so many things out there. There's so many pieces of equipment, but you can do a lot with the old noodle, the 101 ways to use a noodle, because you can use it for gait training on the surface of the water. You can use it for visual cueing. You can use it for support. You can use it for laying back, for ungrounding, disengagement from the pool bottom. There's a lot. You can use it for pelvic floor input if you straddle it. So
yeah, it is a very versatile piece of equipment, and I do realise that I was asking a loaded question.
that was a loaded one.
Especially to you.
Yeah.
Especially to you. I think definitely, I mean, knowing you the way I do think it is brain and hands are your favourite tool, because you do so much with them, and it is all in the feel, isn't it? It's all in the feel of the tissues and the body.
Yeah. And observing what the individual is trying to recruit within themselves, or where the difficulty is, and where their strength lies.
Yeah.
And kind of capitalize on their strength, and then introduce things that are more of a challenge incrementally.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so they feel all anybody wants in all of us, all anybody wants is to feel control. And when you put somebody in the water, that their body is going to rotate in different directions. And I think as therapists, you want to give them tools for themselves to discover within their body new ways of moving, or stabilizing, or not moving, inhibiting some movements.
Yeah. I think you also, again, sort of like myself, it's the whole body aspect of things. I hate it when I see just sort of, you know, oh, just let's concentrate on the knee, or let's just concentrate on the shoulder, because, you know, like I'm always saying to people when I have people that have come who've had road traffic accidents or something, they say, oh, I've had treatment for my neck for the whiplash, and I said, oh, where was the rest of your body? Was that not in the car as well? You know.
That's good. Excellent. Mm-hmm.
You know, we do need to take, it doesn't matter sort of what condition, I think we do need to take the whole body into account. So
yeah. Another thing is a peeve, I guess, would be if you took like the knee, for example. You know, not everybody needs to go into the water for rehabilitation. It's not for everybody. So I think for a while there, everybody was being thrown in the water, especially if they were not having success on land.
Yeah.
But not everybody needs to. I think it needs to be assessed for who's going to benefit the most from being in the water, especially with orthopedic injuries. You know? And I don't like seeing land-based exercises, flexion, extension, you know, pulse, you know, things like that. I mean, they have their place, but there's if they're doing something that they can do on land and have better results, quickly move it to land.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, we live on land, so we do have to have that functionality. Remember when I was at university and we had our 2 days of aquatic therapy, sort of, well, it's when they spent more of the time talking about the history of it. But anyway, when we got to the pool, they gave us all injuries that they wanted us to rehabilitate in the water. The thumb.
The thumb.
And I went, what, the effort of getting undressed into a swimming costume, into the pool, out of the pool, back undressed and dressed into my normal clothes. I would just roll up my sleeve and put it in a bucket. You know, if you wanted me to do it in the water, I would put it in a bucket, not in the swimming pool. I mean,
taking the whole body into account with that thumb.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have somebody using their hand, like doing a giant wave through their body, and having to go all the way out through their wrist and their thumb.
Yeah, I think till the day I will always remember that as if it was yesterday.
That is funny.
So right, so getting back on track to you. So where do you think you want to go sort of now, really? You've had this sort of amazing journey that sort of started from when you were a teenager. Again, very intuitive in your development of your career, I think. I think I'm right in saying that.
Yeah, definitely followed the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So you love working neurologically. I know you love working with fascia, because this is how we managed to get together, and we have lots of plans for courses that we can actually run together in the future. But
I'm going to interject. You asked me what some of I did work on land with massage therapy.
Oh, right. So
medical type massage, structural massage work, and took many courses in myofascial release, neurohumoral massage, sports massage, and I was partners on 3 different businesses, Mountain View Massage, and worked a lot with ski injuries, repetitive use injuries. So not all my work has been in the water. In the same day, I might work on land doing MFR work, and then also be in the pool for a couple hours. So I left that part out, but it's a big integral part of what I do now in the water and where I'm going in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, there's a massive area for massage therapists to come into the pool if they like being in the water, because their skills in their hands are so transferable and so amazing. Somebody's sort of laying very sort of, rigid really on a massage plinth, to the mobility that you can get and in the water is, I think,
it's very 3-dimensional. It gives you access in ways that you don't have on land, and I find I can accomplish, or the client can accomplish, a lot of pain relief at the same time, more in 15 minutes in the water than you can with maybe a 90-minute session on land. But again, you can't, it's a different animal. You can't apply the same type of strokes, and because you use the leverage from the table in your body different on land than you do in the water. You don't have that. So I see there's definitely a learning curve for the massage therapist, the body worker coming into the water. I see them wanting to try to stabilize the body to work on it because they're so used to working on a table.
Absolutely. So I couldn't agree more, and I do think that people that want to go into the sort of aquatic rehabilitation therapy side of things, to I think going and doing a massage course, even if it's a sort of basic massage course to start with, it really tunes the skills into your fingers. So I think that's a very good avenue to start with as well.
I couldn't agree. That's good.
Absolutely. So back to where we were with where are you going next?
Where am I going next? Well, you're asking me a loaded question with the current pandemic situation. So that is a little, I know where I would like to go, but I would like to be able to use a lot of my my knowledge and keep refining my skills. I love taking courses, absolutely love taking new courses and adding, layering on. So that's something I think I'll always be up for.
Never stop learning, do we? We never stop learning.
I'll always be a student of water, yes. And I would like to be able to do hands-on training, not just so much short courses. I would like to do more in-depth things if I find the right pool or right avenues to do that. It's so and we'll just have to see how things come about, because right now there is no hands-on anything. So, no. And the water is a brilliant way for people individually, to get that sense of freedom. So I think it'll be very healing for people, also people who feel a lot of issues in their tissues, like meaning built up stress or anxieties over and the
There's going to be a
fear.
lot of that when we
The
get out
fear
of
of the
this.
unknown, and I think the process of unwinding in the water is going to find its place, and assisting people with feeling that and really letting go and giving them direction in their bodies, either through demonstration or cards or audio, something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be there's already a lot of techniques out there that might have a revival, like aquatic Feldenkrais, aqua yoga, self aqua stretch. Things like these, I think, are going to be very helpful. But there is also that deep unwinding process, which I took an A.R.E.A course in 2017, and part of that is just learning to roll and unwind, kind of like a little otter in the water, and and feel the benefits of that. You know, that was very freeing. You feel odd doing it, but it also was very it helped. The unwinding helps you. You don't have to think or try to analyze it. It's something
you just do it.
Do it. Yeah.
I mean, I must admit that one of the things that I found is the longer that this lockdown goes on, where that fall a couple of years ago, I'm actually I can feel the body tensing up, my left side where I hit my head, my neck, my shoulder, the hip and everything.
Yes.
Telling me that it's you know, I'm not doing great. I need that water.
Yeah. I really wish I had the pool to swim in, or warm water. Even ocean would be very nice right now. I find myself with filling up the bathtub quite a bit and taking a soak and getting my fins wet.
Yeah, like I say, you know, goldfish on the carpet. My gills are drying out.
I can't wait to get back in the water.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how many hours a day do you spend in the water? Do you reckon when you can? Not at the moment.
Right. Well, when I first started out, I spent a lot of hours in the pool. I'd be in the pool, 6 hours a day, and I started having some health issues with skin and some lymphatic issues, and realized I needed to get out of the pool. So I took a break out of the pool for about a year, but I was teaching, but not in the pool with clients that much. So when I got back into the pool, I would, after every hour and a half in the water, I would make sure that I was out of the water for half an hour. Yeah. So if I broke up my day, I'd be in the water no more than 4 hours. Usually, 3 hours is what I'd like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we do have to find our sort of happy medium, don't we? But it can be very difficult when the clients are sort of knocking on your door saying,
that's so true.
Yeah.
That's why it would be great to have a place that has a few well-trained therapists, and so that you don't have to be one person in particular doesn't have to be in the water so much, because that seems to be a common complaint of people who end up loving to do aquatic therapy, but then after a certain amount of time of their job requiring them to have a 6-hour day in the water, that's not realistic. The human body's not meant to be immersed like that, and your organs don't like it being squished like that for so many hours. So it is something that has to be a happy medium. I had this one job once in South Carolina where I could work on land on somebody doing some cranial sacral work, and then I could go to the pool and do some I Chi type work. So if I could make it very integrated, I think that's the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Fabulous. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your career?
For me, it has been reimbursement. Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's one of the differences between the UK and the US, isn't it?
Yeah, so I would say reimbursement, because I am a therapeutic recreation specialist and massage therapist, and I do have adaptive PE background.
Yeah.
And in the United States, aquatic therapy, I think it was a fundamental aspect of therapeutic recreation. It was something that the TR professionals would do, and bring people in the water because they using recreation as a therapeutic tool for exercise, for socialization, for integration, even working with speech, vocal production. And having a lifelong leisure skill that they would be able to enjoy physical activity, perhaps with their peers or their siblings going through life, something for exercise. And over the years, that then, I don't know if it's because the PT has such a strong lobby. I'm sure that has part of it to do, but the medical community started seeing, the intrinsic value of the aquatic programming, which was called therapeutic aquatics, and then it became aquatic therapy as it transitioned more into the aquatic physical therapy realm and for occupational therapy. So so it started getting taken out away from the TR, and it used to be being able to be billed in an inpatient setting, which you still can as a therapeutic rec specialist. But as far as doing outpatient, it then became under the realm of physical therapy. So that posed a problem for a while. I got very creative, and I hired a few physical therapists and built up a business in order to be able to do training for them, and, as well as doing some billing and also working with vocational rehabilitation was a way for me to get reimbursed. Was through in the US is doing vocational rehabilitation and also doing adaptive physical education in the school districts. So it is a bit different. And the other aspect would be having quality water to do your therapy. It really makes a big difference, because if you've got water that isn't up to par, or if it's very noxious, the gases, or the pH isn't balanced, or the locker rooms aren't clean, it's all an integral part of the experience. I'm all for hot springs.
Massive.
All for the natural hot springs whenever possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't have many of those in the UK.
No, they're hard to find anywhere.
Absolutely.
Oh, early on, I used to have to go to orthopedic surgeons and actually give like my 5-minute little, or 3 to 5 minute elevator spiel, and give them the benefits of aquatic therapy, because 20 years ago it wasn't something that was so mainstreamed. Now it's getting a lot more popular, but I would have to go actually and talk to neurologists and orthopedic specialists to let them know how the water could benefit some of their patients.
So can you remember what that 5-minute pitch was?
There used to be Sprint Aquatics had a little video out regarding some of their aquatic therapy equipment. So I used a clip of that, and while I would kind of talk, and that would just be kind of going on in the background, about basically it was the hydrodynamics and how using equipment, or just using the hydrostatic pressure for breathing for spinal cord patients. A lot of it had to do with hydrodynamics and how the human body responds in the water, and it was things that they hadn't thought about they hadn't really thought about hydrostatic pressure and reducing edema. They hadn't thought about the resistance of the water. It wasn't, common knowledge or something that they were even introduced to in their medical training.
Yeah. Well, I suppose also, I mean, over here, because part of the interest is, I said to you, what was your 5-minute pitch, is because in the leisure centres, in the swimming pools over here, for people to do the aquatic therapy, it's, unless you're the physio, it's a really, really difficult job. So it's going and selling, but the people that run the leisure centres aren't water people. Most of them are land people that have gone up the ladder and ended up as managers. So people need to be able to go and say to their manager, look, we're as good, we are trained, we are qualified, we have the right qualifications to do this job, and want it, people need it. Because over here, all the hydro pools in the hospitals are sort of being closed down. So there's plenty of room for the work of doing aquatic therapy over here. And I think, it's a massive, massive part of the market that's missing. So it is going in and saying to them, these are the properties of water. If people understand the water and understand how the human body responds and reacts in the water, then they can go to the manager and say, this is what it is, this is what happens to the body, and people respond well. So it's great.
They really they responded well when I talked to them about fall prevention, or working on balance and stability and muscle recruitment in the water. I
think now we need to add mental health, because there is research on health, isn't there? So at this time, your sales pitch is mental health.
So the idea for me back then, if I could get them to refer one patient, and typically it was their most difficult patient, their patient that had a lot of pain, was in multiple times, they've tried pretty much everything. So as a last resort, they're like, what harm can this do if we try aquatic therapy at this point? Well, the person would come, and then they would go back with glowing reports of the benefit that they got from it, and the first type of real relief in the water. And I share always with the patient why they're in the water as opposed to on land, and the benefits that they're getting out of it, cardiovascular, all the reasons of why to use the water. And that's all it would take. And that one most difficult client, a patient of theirs, would go back, and all of a sudden the referrals would start coming in.
Yeah,
it sells itself.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've got, because I'm lucky, the leisure centre I work at is backs onto a hospital. So I've got consultants now that sort of, because I'm not part of the NHS, they can't directly refer to me, but I know that they turn around, because my clients tell me, they say, there's a woman in the water, go and find her.
Yes, exactly.
So that's as close as I can get to a recommendation. There's a woman in the water, go and find her.
So in the UK, then, since you're not part of the national health system there, a separate entity, people paying you privately, is that right?
Self-funded, yeah. I mean, I do get people that come through insurance, but it's such a bind, and I have to jump through so many hoops, because again, I'm not a physiotherapist. I have a degree in rehabilitation, but not in physiotherapy, and
you have to get do you have to get pre-authorization?
If it's through an insurance company, but I don't tend to bother. 99.7% of my clients are self-funding. So, and if I think I'm very reasonably priced. I don't charge in some aspects what I could charge, if I wanted to go into my qualifications and my experience and et cetera, et cetera. But I sit there and think, I would rather, you know, if people are in pain, I want to be able to make it as accessible
Mm-hmm.
as I can. So you know, I'll never be a millionairess.
No. Yeah.
But I see as many people as I can, and you know, I do the training and everything. So I've made you know, I've made a good career out of it, and that was part of what I tried to do sort of in my recent past, was to come from just teaching swimming and teaching the fitness side, and then I got the degree in rehabilitation, because the more that I learned, the more people came to me and said, you know, I've got this wrong, I've got that wrong, so if I toddle and do another course. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, I did all that, and then at the end of it, I had to prove that actually what I'd sort of created in myself as a career was a sustainable career, and you could actually make a living out of it. So I've sort of done that. You know, now I'm doing all the education and saying to people, you know, you can, this can make a career for you, and a very, very rewarding one.
Yeah, because as you graduate people from the one-on-one, you want them to be able to get into small, you know, small group classes and programs, so that it's something, it's a continuum of care for them.
Yeah. So where I am, I do my one-to-one clients, but then I also teach the group exercises, and I teach an aquatic therapy class, which is the most successful and popular class in the leisure centre. I always said, you know, you're attached to a hospital, you have to do something in therapy in a pool. But yeah, so it's sort of like, it feeds in, and then of course they can go to the more active ones if they can, or some of them stay because of their condition is a lifelong condition, then they'll stay in therapy classes. So yeah, so my days of jumping on poolside are sort of, yeah, once a week.
Pass the baton.
Yes, absolutely, pass the baton. Yeah. So where are we? We've talked about the challenging things. Oh, so where would you like the industry to be going now? Where would you like it to go, and where can you see it going? Are they two different things, or are they the same? Another loaded question.
Yeah, well, it's evolving very, you know, it's evolving very rapidly here in the U.S. It's been something that's been in Europe for much longer than in the U.S. And they did a lot of mainstreaming with the American Red Cross program and the water safety instructors of meeting the needs for individuals with challenges. So it's not so much one-on-one, that if they can get them into a small group, they will, for swimming, you know, lessons in groups. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where you know, I'm not an industry leader. Some might say I have my part, but not. What I don't want to see is the same, what's already been out there, what's already been discovered, what's already known techniques being rehashed over and over and just renamed a different name. You know, that I don't want to see
down as well.
Watered down, exactly. I see. I don't want to see too many online courses, because it is something that has to be experiential. I would like to see more skill analysis for quality therapists. So I think that's what I would like to see. I think that's lacking a little bit. There are some programs. I know it's, what is it, IAFC, International Federation of Aquatic. Yep. They've done very good of putting down, establishing criteria for their protocols and for certification. They're very strict, and it only encompasses usually physical therapists. So I think it needs to be multidisciplinary. It really does. Each discipline brings forth, brings something to the table Each one does. Somebody can work on, you can work on voice production and speech and psychological issues in the water as just as much as you can work on rehabilitation of joints and ligaments. So.
Yeah, I was talking with a lady the other day who's done a fair amount of work with an OT, occupational therapist, on vocal sort of training and rehab in the pool. And
yep, you can use you can use the hydrostatic pressure and rhythm and in the water to help on the diaphragm. Yep.
Yeah. So she was. I think she did a talk up at the British Medical Association or somewhere up in London. So yeah. There's a dog coming. Dog's joining in.
Yeah, my dog Poncho. Yeah. And of all things, I have a dog that doesn't like the water. He doesn't.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that can't be right. Hello, Poncho. Mum, what are you doing?
I have to take him out in a minute. All right, carry on.
Well, I think actually you need to adjust your camera a bit. All I can see is.
Thank you.
That's it. Okay, so one more question then.
Yes.
If you wanted to be remembered for anything when you retire, what would it be?
Hopefully exponentially helping a lot of people, helping people through aquatic therapy, and hopefully a lot of the courses I've taught will have already had that effect. Therapists going back, doing in-service, or them helping their patients, and if their patients are doing better, it helps that patient's families and their loved ones, and so hopefully there's an exponential effect. And I hope, that's hopefully what I've done. I would also like to maybe carry on with the myofascial aquatic body work. That's been something, a real passion of mine for the last 20 years. And I have collaborated with a few therapists, and I've done a very good DVD on that in the past. And I think you and I have some work that we have to do. It won't be fulfilled until until that has come to fruition. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So no, I think you have made all those exponential ripples in the pond.
Yes.
Spreading out the love of the water.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much, Julia. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Good. Good.
And I hope everybody out there continues following your. Is this a podcast that we're doing?
It'll be up on YouTube.
Okay.
So and it'll be shared on our Facebook page and everything. So it'll be on A.R.E.A. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me and for this discussion. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Look forward to working with you soon.
Okay.